arrows in her quiver. She didn't use them. Impeachment. You could
They
use
didn't do
impeach.
anything.
You could use impeach just to delay. And excuses that I heard is like, no, you're gonna get their base riled up. Boy, their base already riled up.
Start the show, we get the breaking news that the Supreme Court has a new justice. Let me introduce my guys. First, Carlito, John, Gabe, Izzy, we are in here. The political junkies, we're gonna save the world. Political junkies are gonna save the world. So let's get right into the breaking news. Who wants to go first?
Everybody wants to focus on the Republicans. You don't get mad at a tiger for being a tiger. You don't get mad at an animal for being an animal. The Republicans are animals. They're terrible, and you gotta just expect that. But the problem is that we have, in response to fascism, in response to illegalities and violations of our Constitution and all this good stuff, we got nobody defending us. There's no one that cares. The Democrats say they care, but they really don't care. And you can see that in every action that they do. They like having this boogeyman to run against, because it's easy to run against a boogeyman. It's hard to run on a platform that inspires people to vote. It's very easy to say this guy's a fascist and we're your only alternative. And maybe you don't like all my policies, or maybe you don't like any of my policies, but you still got to vote for me because the alternative is fascism. And that's what we're seeing. And this is just another example of that situation. It's Obama's fault, because Barack Obama didn't push through his justice. He didn't have the Senate, but he should have used his bully pulpit. Instead, they were arrogant and thought that Hillary was a shoo-in to win, so that they didn't have to push that justice through. And sure enough, they were proven wrong. And now not only has he's appointed 1, 2, is this number 3?
Yep.
Number 3. 3 Supreme Court justices in 4 years.
So listen, I agree.
It won 7 days before the election.
I agree with you, Gabe, but as always, I have to get at you because you sound like those parents that got 2 kids. One is the big screw up that's always messing up, and then you have one that is not as bad, but if they do one bad thing, you go at them harder because you expected better, or they should have known better, or something like that. Like, I hate the way the Democrats act. I agree that they don't want to win sometimes because it's better to have an excuse not to win because they're all bought by the same people. But at the same time, your anger has to be proportionate. I hate the Republicans are worse. Period. All right. So don't try to leave them off the hook and just blame Democrats for being weak. They're weak, and sometimes they're just colluding because they want the excuse. But don't make it sound like it's like they're worse or it's their fault, whatever. It's both of their faults, and Republicans are the worst because they're the ones that are just destroying the Constitution right now.
They destroyed it back to back. You have
well, that's them doing it though. The Democrats are either weak or colluding sometimes, depending on the situation. Like Obama, you said Obama was colluding in the healthcare because he killed the public option before we could even have it because he didn't want it. But still, Republicans want everybody to just die.
Democrats are just losers.
You got to give proportional blame.
Nah, the Democrats are just losers. They are used to losing, and they want to put every excuse possible. And like you said, Republicans are the worst. They're a bunch of bullies, and that's what they do. They bully themselves around, and they have Fox News to do all their talking points and get all that 40% of the people be like, yeah, they had every right. So they violated the Constitution in 2016. They violated the Constitution again, and they will get away with it.
The Democrats are atrocious. They're terrible. They just lose and lose and lose. They're the only party that could manage to lose twice while winning more votes. The first time they won 700,000 more votes in the year 2000, and somehow they let themselves lose. Then they get back into power in 2008 with a candidate that had probably the biggest mandate that we've seen. He had all 3 houses or all 3 branches of the government, and still, did they abolish the Electoral College with that? Did they even recommend it? No. And then what happened again in 2016? They win 3 million more votes and they lose. If there was another country that had 3 million more votes and that person lost, we would be invading them right now, trying to bring freedom. So it's a preposterous system we have in this country. And what's going to happen now? We're going to get another wave. We're going to get the Democrats into power in the Senate, in the House, and we're gonna have all the power. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna do nothing. Are they gonna pack the court? They're not gonna pack the court. They're just gonna roll over, and they're gonna let the Supreme Court over. They're gonna pass laws, and the Supreme Court is gonna overturn the laws that they passed with 3 houses of government. It's preposterous.
So let me hold on one second, John. I want to jump in real quick and talk about 2 things: Nancy Pelosi, and then what do we want to see? What reforms we want to see if the Democrats take over? But John, go ahead with your point, and then I'm going to jump in with those questions.
I think, they totally are a bunch of losers, but can they really be that bad? Like, really, like, they have to pack the court. Like, they have no choice. Like, if they don't pack the court, that's totally, like, that's just beyond. I don't even know what the word is to be a beyond losers. Like, they have no choice. Like, the Republican let them no choice. There's no, like, there's 7 days to election. There's over 67 million people already voted. Mm-hmm. Like, so what are they going to do? Like, they should go in, expand the court, and screw it. Like, and the Republicans are going to be like, yeah, violation of the Constitution, but who cares? At this point, everything's on the table.
So my question
there's a legal process. So
yeah, my question is, and I was joking offline before we went on, where are the arrows in the quiver? This is what Nancy Pelosi said, and of course, I'm sure any of us here didn't believe she was actually going to do anything, but if you're going to show your hand and say you're going to do something, we got to see something, and we got to hold her accountable. She's going to run for Speaker of the House again. This is a notch against her for that speakership again. And then 2, I want to talk about what you guys would like to see. Me personally, I would like to see the idea that every 18 years you see a new Supreme Court justice has to come down, and the current president appoints a new one.
I don't even want to think that far ahead, man. I don't want to even think that far ahead.
You're not ready to think that far ahead?
Immediately, Nancy got to go. Yeah. She's obviously horrible at her job. Mm-hmm. She had options. She had arrows in her quiver. She didn't use them.
Yeah.
Especially impeachment.
They didn't do anything.
You can use impeach just to delay. And excuses that I heard is like, no, you're gonna get their base riled up. Boy, their base already riled up. There's nothing you can do to get them more pissed off and get them to do more than they're already gonna do now. So that's just a stupid excuse.
They would have actually gotten the base that hates them to vote for them. The people that are still don't want to vote for Joe Biden will probably been like, oh, snap, they fighting. So we're going to vote for these guys because they're actually fighting. Nancy doesn't do the stimulus for the people just because who cares? Like, she wants to not give Trump a win or whoever or whatever she wants. She doesn't even fight for the court. Yeah. And I guarantee you, all the Democrats, and probably even including everybody's girl AOC, will vote for her for Speaker of the House again.
I doubt that, man.
I don't know, man. Like,
you know what? I don't know. I don't care. We'll see when we get there. Whatever.
She already said she's gonna run again. Who's gonna stand against Nancy? Like who? Like, come on,
Barbara Lee, right? Right, Case?
Yeah, I like Barbara Lee, but I talked to somebody that has an inside. He used to be, or I'm not going to give away too much information, but he's a DC guy, and he literally said he doesn't have anybody that he knows of that could run against Nancy Pelosi. So I put up Barbara Lee. Somebody else that I chat with, he tried to galvanize some volunteers to call her number, Barbara Lee, to get her to run for the speakership last time, and her aides basically shut them down. So now my thing about Barbara Lee is she tried to run for that 4th place. I think it was when Crowley stepped down. I think it was that position. So that shows me she has leadership ambitions. So that's why I would think that maybe she could run for speakership, but I don't know. We have to see.
All these progressive candidates, the new ones, Jamal, Corey, AOC of the world, they have to come in, and they can't be doing what they did in 2018, where they were like, oh, well, yeah, and they decided to vote for her. Like, Nancy got to go. There's no, like, and a lot of people always give me like a hard time for this, but I always said it. Nancy is the female version of Mitch McConnell. I don't care, if people don't like that. They both the same, and they terrible. They are terrible, and she needs to go because she doesn't represent anything. Like, they literally did not fight for absolutely anything. There's been people struggling for the past 6 months.
By the way, so last time Marcia Fudge, she was about to run. She was like saying that she was about to run, and then she cut a deal with Nancy Pelosi right before she officially jumped in a race. And I was wondering,
they didn't give her a choice.
I was wondering,
somebody will. I was going to say Markey, but he's in the Senate because she's already showing her hypocrisy, she pissed people off. So somebody's gonna run.
But who has enough
against her.
clout? First of all, we got to think about the blue wave. So there's going to be more Democrats that's going to come in. Now, are they conservative Democrats, right, in the House? That's the question. So that gives less strength.
They gotta really see, is she effective at her job? You know, whoever it is, even if they choose somebody that's, you know, centrist or whatever, it can't be her because she's weak. She's bad at her job. She's a failure. So obviously somebody has to step up, even if it's somebody, you know, maybe if it would have been Crowley when he was in there.
So Tim Ryan is always a guy who wants to run. Hold on one second. Tim Ryan is always a guy who's been trying to run for House speakership, but the problem is he's to the right of Nancy Pelosi. Do we want him to run, Carlito?
Listen, I almost don't care, because at least if it's somebody that has less seniority than her, he could be knocked down easier next time.
It's like they all afraid of her. Like, right? They used the excuse in 2018. Well, Nancy could stand to Trump, so we're going to use her. What are they going to do? Well, Nancy used to work with Obama, and you know they got a lot done, so it'll be very well for her to work with Joe Biden. They, you know, the problem is anybody they automatically say going to run, all the established Democrats that are already in the House, they're going to be like, no, we won't vote for you. Try to work a deal instead. We need to be together. We can't show no divisiveness amongst ourselves, and we all got to back our candidate.
You know what? This is worrying to me now, because I think this is going to lose Biden votes, because there are people who only wanted to vote for him over the Supreme Court, and the way that they play this super weak is showing these people that they don't care to fight enough for something that they were willing to swallow their pride to vote for Biden, and they can't fight hard enough for it. And then, you know, if by, you know, what do they care? You know, second is like, there's, you know, RGB already died. So who's next? They don't have to vote in order to preserve her seat anymore, because she's already gone. Her seat is gone. So that's another reason that they lost for voting for Biden.
Yeah. And again, like there was over 50 million votes already casted. So if they were to do impeach Barr or would have done whatever it is that they could have done, already 50 million people voted. So they could have gotten those votes. So those votes that are people like, well, the only really thing I care about, and they still don't know about pack the court. Like Gabe says, they're not going to do it. I have like maybe 5% that they will do it, but at least I have some hope.
How powerful would it have been if Joe Biden in the last debate, they ask him the Supreme Court packing question, and he goes, "You're damn right. If they have the nerve to appoint somebody after what they did, and they held up the vote for last time, you're a double crooked letter that I will pack the court. So you might as well not leave the spot open, because if you don't, it's gonna be worse." And you know how people will be like, "Yeah, woo!" This will be like, "Yeah, let them know, show them the straight." Said, "No, I'm not gonna talk about that because Democrats are weak. They're just weak."
At the very least, he could have
lie, even if you're not gonna do it.
Yeah, at least just say everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. We'll see when we get there. If they do something that it makes it necessary, then you know it's on the table. You never know. I'm willing to do it.
I mean, we know that they're all beholden to the same donors, essentially, right? But what is the reason that they are so weak? Like, what is the behind-the-scenes reason that they are this weak? That they claim to hate these people on the other side, and yet we get nothing from them. Nothing.
They don't care about policy. They just care about preserving their own seat, literally. Yeah. As long as they get elected, they don't care who wins the president, who wins this race, who wins the state, who has the House. They just want to protect their own seat, do whatever the bare minimum, so to protect themselves, and they don't really care about their constituents. They don't care about the country. They don't care about what's the right thing to do. They just care about themselves, and it's really sad that it's gotten to this point. And I don't really know how to respond to. I don't know what the solution is. We know what the solutions are, but I know the Democrats aren't going to do those. There's plenty of solutions. Yeah. Case touched on it a little bit before. You can do a nonpartisan Supreme Court where every presidential term, 2 courts are up. Like we've talked about that. That would be a layup.
Never going to happen. No,
they're not going to do that, man.
Even Democrats will be against, like progressives will be against that. Because that's like, okay, right when we have power, assuming progressives take all the houses, you want to hamstring us? That's like doing pay-go after you already have power. You don't want to do that. What like the one thing that I could see that is more immediate that could happen is form a progressive version of the Tea Party. You want to be obstructionist towards your own party. They got to be held accountable. If you don't come with the goods when it comes to bills, we're not going to vote for it, and you're going to just lose it to Republicans. Now that that's the only thing I could see that could be immediately effective.
But let me ask you this: like, at what point do we also start blaming the voters, right? Like Nancy Pelosi has a challenger. This chick been there 30-something years, and at what point do we be like, people in San Francisco, are they really like, there's more rich people that like only care about like Nancy Pelosi and that, and to actually say, like this chick doesn't really do anything for us. Like she really doesn't do anything for the people. Why are we continue to vote for her? Like, so at what point do we start like looking at all these voters and say, we are part of the problems because we constantly keep voting the same people in year after year after years after years, no matter what. So look at my state, like my senator's going 3 terms, like nobody opposing. And, Bernie Sanders, like we said, been in politics for 40 years, Mitch McConnell, 40 years. So like, at what point do we continue to say, it's our fault? Like we need to like people from those locations need to stand up and say enough is enough.
We got to organize, man. That's the only thing that we have our vote. We have that power, but we also have to organize. And until we come together and come up, strategize, we need our best thinkers. We got our leaders out there, whether people like them or not. We got the TYT, the Kyle Kalinskis, the Nico House, all the different people that's out there. We need to come together. We got our differences, but we need to come together and decide how are we going to move forward. And I mean, they had Justice Democrats was the first example of people on the outside coming together and putting their minds together. They're established. What's the next? What's the next step? What's the next organization that we're going to form to get this
movement for a people's party?
Movement for the People's Party.
Yesterday we got to. So they already got it up and going, and day one we just got to start and primary. Have a candidate going in. They have to galvanize the entire left and whatever independence they can get, and really just get everybody under one umbrella to fight the establishment. Because I could guarantee you this is the last election that I'm going to vote for less of two evils. Hamas, never again am I going to vote for lesser two evils. I wish I could vote for Howie Hawkins for my conscience right now, but unfortunately we have a fascist in the office. So I can't reasonably do that, but this is the last time. So they're not getting my vote
this
again.
Is your last election.
2024.
Yeah, let me pick your brains right now. So that's a strategy for down the line. But the immediate right after, let's say that we have Biden in the presidency, we have the House, we have the Senate. Let's say we have all three. We're looking for any ideas. I think the first thing we should do is attack that speakership. We need to identify who does the progressives want. I want Barbara Lee. I think she's the only person that, even though she's not all the way left, she's like establishment left. If we could get her into the speakership or at least threaten Nancy Pelosi, maybe she would be a more left than what she already is.
They won. You pack the court. They won. You go in.
Well, yeah, they're not gonna do that though. It's like, what can we? But well, yeah, they should do a lot of things.
No, but they won. But forget after tonight, that became number one priority.
Yeah, but that doesn't strengthen the progressive movement against the establishment Democrats. I think that's what Case is kind of getting at, right?
Oh, my bad. I just misunderstood the question.
But you're right. I mean, obviously we do need to do that day one, but on top of that, I think, like Carlito said before, we need a movement from within. We need a Tea Party on the left. We really do. I think that's our only option because you've already seen nobody is opposing Pelosi for anything. I mean, we could talk about Barbara Lee all day. But who in the House right now has said even a peep about potentially opposing Pelosi as the Speaker of the House again?
And that's my biggest knock. I'm an AOC fan. I like it. And that's my biggest knock on her. Like she went opposed, and then she kind of just cuddled to her. Like I guess there's a lot of stuff that we may or may not know. But that's the only one. That's one of the biggest knock that I have on her, that she just doesn't stand up to Pelosi, and that's what I kind of thought that she was going to do.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen next time around.
All right, so let me jump in real quick. I want to give a shout out again to my guy Jordan Ryan, and he brought up Wolfpack, which basically is money in politics. If we let's put pressure on AOC to say, hey, we need to have a strong money out of politics bill. If we could get anything out of Nancy Pelosi becoming speaker again, you know, if she's going to be the furthest left that we can have, AOC, we need you to get this money out of politics bill through so that within the first 100 days, so that at least in the 2024, we don't have to worry about this problem. What you guys think?
I like that, because if you think about like AOC like pushing the Green New Deal, right? That's something fairly easy for Pelosi to be like, yeah, of course we support that. I'll put my name on that. But if you put out a real money out of politics bill as AOC, it'd be really hard to get Pelosi to legitimately support that, because that's where she gets her power from.
Yes.
So you put that pressure on her and you kind of pit that against her. And then from there, when she votes no, that's when you could really be like, all right, it's time to split apart. We're no longer your best buddies anymore, especially if we have Biden in the presidency. That's really the time for AOC to grab power and say, okay, now it's time for us progressives to run and do our own thing. And any bills that you guys put out, if we don't support you, tough luck. Good luck, you know, getting some Republicans to start voting for you.
Listen, and money out of politics is a bipartisan issue. So even some Republicans in the House could be persuaded to vote for that. And I'm glad you brought up Wolfpack. You know, I got monthly recurring donations going over there. Money in politics is my number one issue with a bullet, period. If you take care of that, a lot of these issues that we're talking about, they'll take care of themselves, man, because at least it will be the people that have the voice and not whoever gives them the most money.
Money out of politics, it only has 65 to 77% of people that support it. So because of that, you know it's not going to pass. You can see everything that when you look at the correlation between public position and laws that pass, it's always whatever people want more of is something that never passes, and whatever people with money want, that's what passes. So
that's why Wolfpack is working inside the states, and they're putting bills in the states and shooting for a constitutional convention for that.
How awesome would it be if, like, you know, if a miracle happened and Nancy actually ended up losing? So a message for the people in San Francisco: vote Nancy out.
I'm going to button up this conversation. The next step is organize. I think we should be talking about this now heavy. I mean, every show moving forward, we got to talk about how are we going to organize. The first step is the speakership. Forget everything else. Who do we want as speaker? I think Barbara Lee. If we go with Barbara Lee,
maybe what AOC able to do to tell someone, like, if we don't run against Nancy, then I'm going to run against Chuck in 2022. So maybe that could be a point of where she could work a deal that get Nancy out and she would not run against Chuck, so Chuck could stay in the Senate.
Chuck needs to go too.
Is that worth it though? Is that a worth it trade?
Get them all out.
For the establishment Republicans, you know what I mean? I don't know. If you're trying to get the speaker out, just play politics with them. After you get Nancy out, then do what they do. Do what they do to progressive, right? Do what they do to progressive. Oh,
I changed my mind.
That's yeah, we need to decide how are we going to organize for the speakership. I want to focus on that. I know we could go broader and say, okay, money out of politics, the court. The first thing is that speakership. Who gets in there? And we need to decide, who do we want? We got to then push that person so hard that Nancy, which I'll be honest with you, she might become speaker again, but at least we can push her that she doesn't do pay-go or she does more leftist. We could pressure her to do some more left policy legislation.
Nancy's not doing anything for us.
The progressive caucus needs to be progressive.